With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Today, cloudy with a high of 43, then tonight, cloudy with a low of 35. Chef Carrie's always got something new and exciting cooking at Nightingale in South Minneapolis on the corner of 26th and Lyndale. Don't miss out on the famous Nightingale burger and fries, or be more adventurous with the duck pastrami Reuben. View their menu or place a takeout order at nightingalempls.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Living Healthy and Aging Well. My name is Ken Haglind, and we are broadcasting from the AM 950 radio station that overlooks Bryant Lake Regional Park, located in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. I know you hear me say this every weekend, but it's another beautiful day here in the Twin Cities, and I am so grateful to be here with you today, and I hope all of you listening are doing well. We are on the air every Saturday from noon to 1 to talk about your health and your life. We cover a wide range of topics to help you and your loved ones improve and enjoy your quality of life. We have another great show for you today. Joining me in a few minutes will be Christin Ament. She is the executive director and founder of the Bardo, and she is here to share how she is redefining end-of-life care in Minnesota, starting by reimagining the physical space and care at end of life. Christin is a palliative care nurse and death doula. She is creating an end of life sanctuary that is seeking to reconnect the dying with nature and their communities. She is passionate about providing patients and families with the tools necessary to make informed choices and make empowered end of life choices. For Christin, thinking about your death invites us all to live more enriched and fulfilled lives. You will enjoy listening to my conversation today with Christin. I want to thank all of you that leave us messages on our radio show phone line. We appreciate hearing from you, and we welcome your comments, questions, and topics for future shows. Also, if you are interested in being a guest on our show, please call or text us at 612-999-3426. You can also contact us on our website at livinghealthyradio.com. There you can find information about upcoming guests as well as listen to our previous shows. And we look forward to hearing from you. We are adding new listeners to the show each week, not only here in the Twin Cities of Minnesota, but also throughout the country. You can find podcasts for all of our radio shows on the AM 950 radio website. And we can also be found on your favorite streaming service, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many others. You can also watch our broadcast live on the radio station's Facebook page at AM 950 Radio. If you have a question for us today, there are two ways to reach us. First, by calling the AM 950 radio station, and our friendly show producer, Patrick, will get your call on the air. Our phone number here is 952-946-6205. Once again, 952-946-6205. Or you can text us your question at 612-999-3426. Now, don't worry if you miss those contact numbers. I'll repeat them throughout the show. All right, time to welcome my guest for today's show, Christin Ament, the executive director and founder of the Bardo. Welcome to the show, Christin.
Thanks. Good to be here.
All right. Well, this is, of course, everyone knows I'm in hospice, and we are so focused on helping support people at end of life. And so we've been trying to get you on the show here for a while, and this is so great to have you. Love people trying to think through how to make that end of life process the most enriching for people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everyone tends to shy away from death and dying and grief and all that. And really, as you believe, like I do, if we think about death, not all the time, but occasionally, it really helps you to appreciate what you have today. Like Bonnie Raitt said, when life is short, or when life there's less of it to waste. When life gets more precious, when there's less of it to waste. And I think I'm finding a lot of people that that we work with through Minnesota Hospice and other venues. Those are the most thoughtful people because they're dealing with it every day.
Yeah.
So, all right. So the audience loves to learn about our guests on the show. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I am a mother of two. I'll start out by saying that.
Okay.
I think that that's so important to when we talk about a little bit of our legacy. But for the purpose of the show, I will share that my interest and exposure and passion for end of life came unexpectedly. So I was a second career nurse. At Mayo Clinic in Rochester, and I worked in the intensive care unit. So I was predominantly in the neurointensive care, but floated to many different intensive care units. And it was my exposure to unexpected traumatic deaths as well as expected deaths that um, led me down this pathway of, is this how I would want to do this? Is this how I would want to spend my final days? Lying in a bed in a hospital, being turned every 2 hours, my mouth moistened every 2 hours. And that's the extent of it. Nobody knew who I was. Nobody knew where I came from, what my story was. And while we do medicine, curative medicine, so remarkably well in the West, we oftentimes forget about those important conversations about who we are and what's important to us. And it happens when it's too late. So it was seeing people in traumatic experiences and watching what happened to their final days that led me down this pathway of there has to be a better way. And so I was fortunate enough to have people in my life, colleagues and people that I looked up to, who suggested I do some more exploration around this. So I did a bit of a world tour where I went to places of origin to study traditional medicine ways and found and my goal was to really look at how we do medicine differently. But what I found is that these other cultures do death and life so beautifully. And so when I came back, I began working in hospice. There was no way I could go back bedside with everything that I had learned. Um, and I really found that, gosh, hospice is so beautiful, and yet there still are these big voids. And really, what it comes down to is a lack of our culture um, understanding and normalizing these conversations before it's absolutely too late. So that became a mission of mine: is how can we normalize these conversations? How can we demystify the fact that we're all going to die someday? How do we bring back more beauty and reverence to this experience, rather than allocating it to the final days when it's hospice and it's done? So I'm in my 40s and I talk about this with people all the time. Like, what's important to me? What if my life was gone right now? How would it informed how I walked out of the studio today? What if I knew I had a month left? What would I be doing right now? If the answer is different than what I'm doing right now, I should probably start doing that
That's right.
immediately. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's kind of the hope. So I kind of took a turn there, but more coming back to how I got to this place. So working in hospice, then I became a nurse practitioner. So I went on and did my advanced training to become an independent provider. And I did that for several years. And the same thing was true. There's these huge gaps in care. People aren't normalized to these conversations. We go cure, 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 cure. The system looks at it as a failure, and then hospice, and also that conversation hasn't been had. So I wrote a manifesto about a decade ago about how I would see it differently, and it was in a Word document, and it was a home, and there were horses, and it smelled like cookies, and everyone could meander through these gardens, and I just plugged it away on my computer. I still have it, by the way. And about 3 years ago, this woman that I had been in community with approached me and said, "If you had your dream, what would it be?" And I expanded on that Word document. And she said, "Well, do it." And I chuckled and I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." And she said, "No, I'm serious. I would like to support you doing this." Um, at the time, I had 186 patients that I was their palliative care provider. throughout the state of Minnesota. And so I had a heart-to-heart with my family, and I said, "Is this something I could actually do?" And the answer was yes. So I've been on that journey now for about 2.5 years, thanks to the
Wow.
gift and the benevolence of this person.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So how did they know? How did they connect with you on
Mm.
that vision? Because I think when I talk to people, to try to get a shared vision for something
Mhm.
is really unique, and it's really powerful when
Mhm.
you get more than one person having a vision for something. How did that connection happen?
It was, sometimes you meet people in your life that are great connectors for
Right.
you. And I had a friend that had actually connected me with other places that do end of life work as well, including Lakewood Cemetery.
Mhm.
And this friend said, "You need to meet somebody." And so I met this person, and we were just friends for about 3 years. 3 or 4 years before she approached me. She knew what I did. She knew what I was passionate about. She knew the work I had done in the community beforehand. So that's
Okay.
where that came about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And she's still a friend and
Oh gosh, I saw her this morning at 7:30. We
okay.
where
That's
yes.
good.
In fact, she owns the entire property. So,
Oh,
of the
okay.
Bardo.
The Bardo.
That's
Okay.
right.
All
Yeah.
right.
Mhm.
Okay, that makes sense. Um, and I have been out there.
Yeah.
I've not been into the building, but I've driven by out there for when I was doing other appointments, and it is a very secluded, beautiful location.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk more about that
Okay.
on the next segment. It's time to take a short break.
All right.
All right, folks, we'll be right back to continue our conversation with Christin Ament. She is the executive director and founder of the Bardo. And Christin is sharing how she is redefining end of life care in Minnesota, starting by reimagining the physical space and care at end of life. If you have a question for Christin, please give us a call, 952-946-6205, or text us at 612-999-3426. I'm Ken Haglind, and you are listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well.
I'm Shelley Medore, and I'm running for Minneapolis City Council. As your council member, I will fight against harmful MAGA policies coming out of Washington and push back on extreme policies here at home. Minneapolis doesn't need more grandstanding. We need good governance and common sense solutions. I will work to invest in community policing, protect tenants' rights, and invest in our small businesses so we can keep Minneapolis a welcoming city for all. On Election Day, I'm asking for your vote. Together, let's choose Minneapolis. Vote Shelley Medore for Ward 2.
Prepared and paid for by Campaign Fund of Shelley Medore, Ward 2.
At Hazelden Betty Ford, treating mental health isn't just about breaking old patterns, it's about braving new ones. As the leader in alcohol and drug treatment for 75 years, we know caring for addiction, anxiety, depression, and trauma goes hand in hand. We're here with new tools for you when life breaks down. Discover your path to better mental health at herewithyou.org. Sponsored by Hazelden Betty Ford Foundation and aired by the Minnesota Broadcasters Association and this station.
Minnesotans age 65 plus might qualify for Health Partners Minnesota Senior Health Options. The easy all-in-one plan includes personal support, coverage for medical, prescription drugs, and dental, plus many extra benefits. Eligibility information is available at healthpartners.com/oneplan. Health Partners is a health plan that contracts with both Medicare and the Minnesota Medical Assistance Medicaid program to provide benefits of both programs to enrollees. Enrollment in Health Partners depends on contract renewal.
So an atheist, a Christian, and a Buddhist walk into a church. There's no punchline. That's just what happens every Sunday at First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis. Join us for Sundays Reimagined or live stream at firstunitarian.org. Looking for community without doctrine? Questions without judgment? Think outside the pew. Join us for Sundays Reimagined at First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis or live stream at firstunitarian.org.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. We have families waiting for a car. You know, over 85% of unemployed are successful in finding and keeping a job if they have dependable transportation. A car plus a job equals a life changed. 612-919-5526. We have families waiting for a car. 919-5526 or autotech.org.
Crooners is a classic supper club with a wide range of entertainment. Make your reservations for a parade of international, national, and local artists in the main stage showroom, the intimate Dunsmore Jazz Room, or outdoors at the seasonal Belvedere Under the Stars space. Or enjoy Maggie's Piano Lounge. Enjoy 4-star food and drinks with first-class supper club service. What are you waiting for? Go to croonersmn.com for more information and schedule. That's croonersmn.com.
Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well, where we talk about helping you and your loved ones improve and enjoy your quality of life. And that means right to your last breath. And that's why we've got Christin Ament here. She is the executive director and founder of the Bardo. And we're going to learn more about that in this segment and the next. What is the Bardo? And there's a story behind that, I'm sure. And Christin is sharing how she is redefining end-of-life care in Minnesota, starting by reimagining the physical space and care at end of life. Now, Christin is a palliative care nurse and death doula who is creating an end-of-life sanctuary seeking to reconnect the dying with nature and their communities. Christin, how can our listeners contact you and your organization if they have questions or want more information about this amazing vision that you have?
Yeah, I would welcome people to reach out if things come up during this session or if the conversation ignites and sparks anything just by visiting the website, which is simply thebardo.com, and it's BARDO, Bardo. And then on there is many ways to get in touch with us, either the phone number or the email, which I find is the easiest to do, is just it's info@thebardo.com. So we have opportunities for volunteering, donation because we're a nonprofit, and also just to get in touch and perhaps connect with some of our services.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Yeah. And we'll mention that throughout the show, folks. So if you didn't catch that, we'll do that every time we come back from break. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I have a lot of questions here about everything here, but so let's talk about the name, the Bardo.
Mhm.
What's the significance of that name?
Sure. Well, the Bardo is actually a phrase that comes from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So while we're not a spiritual or a center around Tibetan culture, I a little bit of a back history when I was mentioning that world exploration, looking at traditional medicine ways. One of the places I went was northern India, where the Dalai Lama resides. Once he was exiled from China, they moved the Tibetan people to northern India, and he lives there. And I went over there and studied Tibetan medicine, and through that process, read the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and learned about the Bardo, the concept, the Bardo, and I was so struck by it that it truly means the liminal space between life and death, in the broadest sense of the word. That said, many Tibetan scholars and Buddhist scholars have written books on, um, 15 pillars of the Bardo, 20 ways of the Bardo, and you can break it down so small into every time we blink and every time we take a breath is this pause, this invitation to transition and to pause. So I talked with this Tibetan scholar. His name is Dr. Tenzin Namdul. He teaches at the University of Minnesota, and I actually studied with him when we went to India. And he's part of our faculty teaching about end-of-life practices and Buddhist practices. And I asked him if he thought this was appropriate, and he said, I do. So it was with his encouragement and acceptance. I thought, gosh, there's just not a good term for that in the West. So therein lies the Bardo.
Wow. Okay. So when you say the liminal space between life and death, probably not many people have heard the word liminal. Subliminal, but not liminal. So it really is it incremental? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think each person can define what that means for themselves. You might say that right now is your moment between life and death, and somebody might say it's the final hour before life and death. So to me, it becomes very personal that each person can identify what that means. And that exploration in and of itself is a beautiful practice.
You know, what's interesting too, being in the world of hospice is you run across so many people that have such a passion for helping people through that stage of life, and whether they be social workers, spiritual care, nurses, aides, NPs, medical directors. There's just so many people that are involved in that process. And what is so fascinating is that consistently people will say people tend to die the same way they lived. And it's an interesting thing. And the other thing I hear from people is that true enlightenment for us doesn't happen until we are right at the threshold of the end of life. And you think about it, how sad in a sense that is, that we don't embrace that during our life. We have to wait till at end of life. But that's why it's so important to work with people who understand that.
Yeah.
And can help encourage you and your loved ones, your family, to start embracing those things, because really dying is a duration. It's a process.
We're dying right now.
Right. We're moving towards our expiration date. And yet we think we're immortal.
Yeah.
Especially the younger we are, the more we think we're immortal. But it's fascinating that people, I think, especially in the West, we're so busy. And I think we just don't, and there's so much distraction in our lives. We just don't take time to pause. But that's why we need to watch other people dying and attend funerals. And so that it gives us a reminder, a wake-up call maybe, to value the moments, the liminal moments we have every day.
That's right.
And things. So
yeah,
that's fascinating.
Yeah, you brought up so many points as you were speaking that I was like, oh, that could be an entire episode.
Right.
But I do think, to your point, what I have learned, and people say, isn't it sad working in end of life? Isn't it sad? I always say, gosh, it's the opposite. I mean, yeah, of course, there's sadness. However, every death is a lesson. Every death is a witnessing, and every death you get to really see the vulnerability that we do not allow in our culture for people to see within us. And when people are at death's door, they become the most vulnerable versions of themselves, and you get to see a window to their soul that you don't otherwise see. And I think in that's the magic, and that's why they say that people become masters. None of our masters are masters until they're dead, and it's because the whatever opens in people on death's door is such a beautiful thing to be able to witness, that many don't get that opportunity.
Right. Yeah, and that's why it's so important for families to participate.
Yeah.
And because there's such opportunity to learn about somebody at end of life, and they don't always. It's amazing some of the things that come out at end of life that people share with people that they should have shared years ago. And the music's cueing us out here.
No.
So we'll bring this back though, because there's so many things, whether it's a personal reflection or it's something you want to pass on to the next generation. They wait till they're at end of life to do that.
Yes.
It's too late. All right. It's time for a short break. We'll be right back to continue our conversation with Christin Ament, the executive director and founder of the Bardo. And Christin is here sharing how she is redefining end-of-life care in Minnesota, starting by reimagining the physical space and care at end of life. If you have a question for her, please give us a call, 952-946-6205, or text us at 612-999-3426. I'm Ken Haglind, and you are listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well.
Hi, I'm Scott Shambot from Shambot Family Dentistry. We're the fear-free, shame-free dental office. We know dental anxiety and dental phobia are real. We'll take the time to get to know you and give you what you need to be comfortable at all times. We offer free nitrous oxide laughing gas and have high-tech options to help you feel calm and relaxed during your appointments. We'll help you get through every appointment in the most pain-free way possible. If you're having a dental emergency, we'll try and get you in the same day you call because we don't like to see anyone in pain. As my daughter Rachel says,
if you don't see my dad, please see another dentist. Take care of your teeth because they're the only ones you get.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950. I've been going to Shamblat Family Dentistry for years. They get me in last minute when I'm in pain and make regular checkups easy and comfortable.
Shamblat Family Dentistry in Hopkins and St. Paul. Find them online at shamblatfamilydentistry.com or call 1-800-FIX-MY-TEETH.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. November is here, so you're probably thinking two things right now. First is, man, where did this year go? And second is, oh no, I'm hosting Thanksgiving and my house is not ready at all. So you need to call my cleaning heroes at Zero Res to get things in order before your friends and family come over to celebrate. Every surface in your home can be Zero Resified, from hardwood, carpet, tile, rugs, upholstery, and more, so you don't have to worry about your friends and family plopping down on a nasty couch. Zero Res has a 4.9 rating on Google with over 21,000 reviews, so go ahead and get clean. And don't miss this month's deal. Get 3 rooms of carpet starting at just $139 and $50 off an air duct cleaning. You just need to call 952-ZERO-RES or go to ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
In today's uncertain times, Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces believes that a fire can add comfort and security to your life. At Woodland, our mission is to connect you to a place for fire that works.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces installed our wood stove years ago, and we still love it. Watching the fire, feeling the heat, is a joy we experience every day. And knowing we have a reliable heat source makes us feel snug and safe.
There are many choices in wood, gas, or electric. For diversity in styles, at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, we display over 180 models, and 35 of these are burning displays. You can experience the glow and warmth of a live fire.
Whether wood, gas, or electric, find a fire that warms your heart, a fire that adds comfort and security to your life. See the many choices at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, located on the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis, and online at woodlandstoves.com.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces since 1977. For over 48 years, our slogan has been, out of the ordinary products and services. Our mission is to get you a fireplace that works in your life.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Today, cloudy with a high of 43. Then tonight, cloudy with a low of 35. Time is running out to get your tickets for the legendary Paul Metz's 70th birthday party this Sunday night at 7 o'clock at the Astor House in Minneapolis. This event is an AM 950 fundraiser and features a full bar and delicious food menu. Get your tickets at am950radio.com.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Saturday.
All right, welcome back, everyone. You are listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well, where we talk about helping you and your loved ones improve and enjoy your quality of life. My name is Ken Haglind, and joining me today is Christin Ament. She is the executive director and founder of the Bardo, and we just finished talking about where the name Bardo came from. So if you missed it, you'll have to just listen to the podcast. But Christin is sharing how she is redefining end-of-life care in Minnesota by starting reimagining the physical space and care at end of life. In this segment, we're going to talk about what that looks like at the Bardo. And Christin is a palliative care nurse and a death doula who is creating an end-of-life sanctuary seeking to reconnect the dying with nature and their communities. All right, before we return to our conversation with Christin, I want to mention this radio show is brought to you in part each week by Minnesota Hospice. Minnesota Hospice is an independent, locally owned medical practice serving our Twin Cities communities with comprehensive end-of-life health care. The team at Minnesota Hospice provides patients and family members with award-winning end-of-life healthcare services. You may not be aware that hospice brings compassionate medical, social, emotional, and spiritual services to your home with typically no cost to you or your family. Please do not wait to learn how hospice care can benefit you and your loved ones. If you have any questions regarding end-of-life care or support, please contact the compassionate team of experts at Minnesota Hospice. They are available to answer your questions 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The phone's answered by a registered nurse. Their phone number is 952-898-1022. Once again, 952-898-1022, or simply visit them online at minnesotahospice.com. All right, let's return to our conversation with Christin. If you have a question for us, please give us a call, 952-946-6205, or text us at 612-999-3426. Christin, how can our listeners contact you and your organization if they have questions or want more information?
Yeah, well, please go ahead and visit the site, thebardo.com. You can also just shoot an email to info@thebardo.com, or give us a call at 651-350-7989. I would say emailing us is probably the best way to get in touch with us immediately.
Yes, that makes sense. And again, beautiful website, very well done. I'm just so impressed with all the websites that come across the table here at the radio show, but very nicely done. I would encourage people to do that. The Bardo, BARDO.com. All right, now I want to make sure we talk about the services that your organization and your property and all the things you have going on there. The services that that you have going on. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the ways in which we are trying to transform and change end-of-life care is by bringing more ritual and reverence to the entire process. So, again, talking back about the hospital systems and the current system with end-of-life care, a lot of times what happens is checking of the boxes, focusing on the diagnosis, and not really taking into account what the whole person is all about. And so, ritual and doing it in an isolated fashion, I should note. We do that really well in the West. We isolate our grief, we isolate our diagnoses, we isolate our experience. And so, what that leads to is unresolved grief that we are then left to transition to the next life with, if that's your belief system. But so we hope to bring ritual to every step of the way. It doesn't mean that it has to be something elaborate, hours long. It means bringing some intentionality, humanization to those conversations. So, at the Bardo, we accept families and guests who are dying as one of our service offerings. Our big service offering right now is to actually physically host people who are at end of life beginning in January. However, the other services, my goal is to the moment of a diagnosis that is terminal or complex, people can call us. And I think one of the biggest things that we seek to do is to fill the gaps in care. So we have a service, for instance, called Navigating the System. So the moment somebody has a diagnosis and they're not sure what to do with it, they can call and we can help walk through that whole diagnosis. And I'm going to share a brief story just to highlight the importance of why. I was approached. This is one of many, but I was approached by a woman who. Her husband has frontal temporal dementia, but for the 5 years prior to the diagnosis, they saw myriad different providers, diagnosed him with seasonal affective disorder, mixed anxiety, depression, put him on medications. Finally, and nothing was helping. Finally, they met with a neurologist. The neurologist did a scan and said, yes, this is frontal temporal dementia. The wife said, well, goodness, what do I do? And he says, I'm not sure. Go talk to your primary care doctor. And so she left and she went to the primary, and the primary said, this is really outside of my scope of practice. Here's a brochure on hospice. And so she left and called me, found me, and said, hospice? Are we ready for hospice? And I said, first of all, you're not ready for hospice. He's not appropriate. He's not a candidate. Now, palliative care, absolutely, but he's not hospice appropriate. And also, let's talk about everything else that happened, that you were misdiagnosed, mistreated, went down the rat race, and now you're told, boom, hospice. someone just pulled the rug right out from under your feet without giving you any eye-to-eye contact, comfort, support of what you're going through, what he's going through. So this is a highlighted example of what often happens in our system, and it's no fault of anybody. But what if we could reimagine what that looked like and work with a clinician or a professional that knows what the symptoms are, knows what the diagnosis means, and can say, let's set up your life starting right now to have more intentionality, more reverence, more compassion, and start doing everything that's important. So that's one of the services we offer as well, is navigating the system.
So really, yeah, it is somewhat of a life navigator. You have life coaches and all these different wonderful services we have in society, but this is kind of special. It's a specialized area because you want people that have had the experience of working with that stage of life,
right?
Than just in general.
That's right. And another part of that is filling out your advanced care directives. And I do workshops all over on filling out your advanced care directives. Anybody should do that now. And I think a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to wait until I have this terminal diagnosis. Well, what if you got hit by a car? You can always change it, but it's worth at least sitting down, doing that, having the conversation, and doing it in a way that's purposeful, not just filling it out online in isolation by yourself and then sending it to your provider. That is a way for you to start telling your story and reimagining what you see your life being like. What an opportunity. So all of the services that we offer are really hoping to enrich the entire experience and allow more reverence for our life.
Yeah, and on the advanced directives, the people that really benefit from it are the people that are left behind.
That's right.
That are going to help execute what you want, because it is priceless to them to know, well, what is it you want? Because there are so many questions, and it really is it's the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
But at least it gets you started in the right direction, and having a conversation that we should be encouraging people to have, and they should be actually willing to have and wanting to have that with their loved ones. Okay, what other services then are you guys incorporated into your program?
So we have a whole variety of ritual type experiences and services that are offered for people depending on what their needs are. So looking at people who are grieving, looking for people who are actively dying, those who need to have a care conference with their family, how we can reimagine every step of the way. So we have a grief opportunity for folks that's called the cocoon. And the idea is to really wrap support around people and develop community. They say that unprocessed grief leads to terminal disease and chronic disease.
Boy, I've heard that as well.
And we just don't do it. We do it in isolation. We're ashamed of it. We think that there's a timeline attached to it. But really, when we speak the words of what's happening in community with people who understand, we can work through it and metabolize that grief a little bit better. And in that way, we can function differently. So a lot of the services that we offer, like we offer meditative tea ceremony, art mandala making, which is, if you're not familiar with a mandala, it's a kind of like a, how would I describe a mandala? I'll say a circular pattern made with natural materials. So collecting pine cones and leaves and flowers
it's a three-dimensional thing.
Yeah, it's a three-dimensional thing. And so it's actually creating something tactile in community, and then sharing about it, why you were drawn to these particular plants or herbs or pieces. So it's really incorporating our connection with the natural world as well, and allowing the natural world to inform so much of what we're not understanding in this particular world too. So so we have the cocoon grief membership, we do the mandalas, we do the tea ceremony, we do song, prayer, vigils. So the hope is to accommodate and support somebody who walks in the door regardless of their background. So you might come from a very Catholic background and you want to pray the rosary and you want to have the sacrament of the sick and you want to have frankincense and myrrh. Wonderful. And you might come from a Tibetan background. We've got a huge community of Tibetans in Minnesota. And so we would be equipped to support you in those modalities and those rituals from your background. So the idea is not to be expert, but to have a well enough understanding of different cultural backgrounds and the meaning of ritual that we can help support people. And maybe you come in the door with absolutely no understanding of ritual and no spiritual background. Well, perhaps we can bridge that gap to form some connection with nature, with community, with your family, with yourself. Maybe a connection with self that has been forgotten.
Yeah, well, I've heard so much about ritual can be so de-stressing. It helps people just relax. There's something about it.
It allows us to a place to put our feelings.
There you go. Yep. Yeah, that's so true.
Mhm.
Wow. So really it doesn't matter the background, doesn't matter the culture, doesn't matter. They can find that peaceful process and peaceful rest here at the Bardo.
Yeah.
So, okay, great. Now, and you said you're going to be opening up and taking your first person here in January of 2026.
That's right.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, the music's going to cue us out here in a second from Patrick. So we'll have one more segment left.
Okay.
So let's prepare what we want to talk about in the last segment here. This has been just great. I'm so excited for you to get your first patient in your location.
Yeah, it's been an uphill battle. We can talk about that that part.
That means it's going to be impactful.
Yeah, that's right.
If the road is hard, that means there's a great reward at the end there. You're doing something right. All right, it's time for a short break. We'll be right back to continue our conversation with Christin Ament, and she's the executive director and founder of the Bardo. If you have a question for Christin, please feel free to give us a call, 952-946-6205, or text us at 612-999-3426. I'm Ken Haglind, and you are listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well.
Hi, I'm Corey Wisco, president of the Welshire. The Welshire excels as a memory care community in the Twin Cities, located in Bloomington, and we have a new location in Medina. But what makes Welshire so different is the people that we have working for us. Our team has been together for the past 25 years providing this type of care. We employ some of the most amazing nurses and LPNs that are in the building 24 hours a day. We also have an activity team that is over 40 people. And our scheduling begins at 9 o'clock in the morning for activities, and it goes to 7, 8 o'clock at night. And that's 7 days a week. You won't find that. That is why many of the families that come to Welshire are actually coming from another memory care facility. Not all memory care is created equally. And that's why I encourage you, if you've had issues and problems at other places, come see what makes us so special. Please visit thewelshiremn.com and book a tour.
My name is Lola Silvestri, and I'm going to be 95 this year. I spend a lot of time in my backyard. I feed the birds and the bees. I love my flowers. The color in my garden keeps the pink in my cheeks. I was very independent and thought I could take care of myself. I fell and I had to have Meals on Wheels. I love them. They're my savior. And I look forward to volunteers because they've all become my friends.
It's Meals on Wheels.
America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Frank Brown of Minuteman Press Uptown with a question for our listeners. How important are business values to you? When you need high-quality digital print, it matters who you work with. You see, Minuteman Uptown is unique. We're one of the only union print shops in Minnesota providing our team with living wages and benefits. We believe in second chances for justice-impacted individuals who want to contribute to the community, and we are active in local issues. We've been in the streets standing up for racial, social, and economic justice. At Minuteman Uptown, our mission is to connect all communities through technology-driven print solutions. An example of that mission is when I moved Minuteman Uptown to North Minneapolis, We're invested in this local community, and we help small businesses and local organizations throughout the Twin Cities reach their audiences. Reach out to Minuteman Uptown and partner with a printer that shares your values. Call us today at 612-870-0777 or visit us at mpuptown.com. That's mpuptown.com.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well, where we talk about helping you and your loved ones improve and enjoy your quality of life, and right down to your last breath. And my name is Ken Haglind, and joining me today is Christin Ament, and she is the executive director and founder of the Bardo. Christin is here sharing how she's redefining end-of-life care in Minnesota, starting by reimagining the physical space and the care at end of life. Now, Christin is a palliative care nurse and also a death doula, and she is creating an end-of-life sanctuary seeking to reconnect the dying with nature and their communities. If you have a question for us, please give us a call, 952-946-6205, or text us at 612-999-3426. Christin, how can our listeners contact you and your organization if they have questions or want more information?
Yeah, I would welcome them to visit our website, thebardo.com. It's THEBARDO. You can email us at info@thebardo.com, or you can call us. We have a landline, like so many do not, but we're proud to have a landline. It's 651-350-7989. But I think the best way to get in touch with us would be the info@thebardo.com.
Perfect. Okay, so let's envision this for people that are all across the country listening to the show. The Bardo. I'm sure they're just trying to. You've heard the word Tibetan, and is it? What is it looking like? And I drove by it, and so I know it's a beautiful home in the middle of almost like a forest.
Yeah.
But it's right here though in the Twin Cities.
Yes.
It's in Inver Grove Heights, right?
That's right.
Right
That's right.
between Egan and Inver Grove Heights there.
Yeah. So we sit on a 5-acre plot, but the person who has donated the home, by the way, it's a 5,300 square foot home with incredible windows that look out to landscaped yards. But they actually own the adjacent property as well. So it creates a total of 43 acres. And you're right, it is right in the middle of a city.
Right.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't know it. You
would not know it.
Once you literally go down the gravel road, and you can't see it. You can't see the house, the property from the road.
No.
You really have to kind of meander through the forest, and it's very enchanting when you get back there, especially right now when the leaves are turning. It's just it's magical, isn't it?
It's stunning. And it is true, because you turn off a busy road and you drive down another road and you're here. But just the other day as I was leaving, there was an 8-point buck walking across the driveway. We have 23 resident turkeys that meander through. There were 3 coyotes the other day. On the adjacent property, there are 3 spirit horses that were donated from a Dakota elder. And we have sheep and kittens and all kinds of creatures. Yeah, 4-legged and 2-legged.
Yeah. Now, do you allow dogs or pets to be in the property when someone is, like, sometimes they'll have their favorite dog or whatever? Okay.
We do.
Okay.
I believe firmly that animals are best friends, soulmates, etc. So if we allow others in, we can certainly allow animals in. Obviously, we take allergens very seriously. So if people have allergic responses, that's a conversation we'll have with each family. And if we need to keep the pet in the room, that's okay.
Sure. And how many can be in your home? Or what kind of options do you have in terms of capacity?
We have 3 beds, and it's just a function of how the home was set up. So we chose not to change the home really at all. which is why we're not a hospice facility. So we're not a licensed hospice facility, or we would have had to change the home pretty extensively.
Sure.
But as it sits, we have 3 beds. So our hope is to begin with this location and then expand and branch out to other communities across the metro. My personal hope and goal is to have one in each cardinal direction of the metro, and then also branch out to the Iron Range and to Duluth and support those communities who have nothing.
Yeah, right. So, what are the services that a person would expect to have when they're there residing in the Bardo?
Well, so everybody that comes has to be signed on with a hospice agency.
Okay.
So the hospice agency will define the care plan, and that might look different to each person, but of course, medication will be one of them. So our staff will be doing medication administration in tandem with the hospice team, and then a whole variety of other sorts of cares. So obviously, the very basics is tending to somebody's hygiene and their personal needs, helping them with their ADLs, meal preparation, things like that. But beyond that, putting the Bardo spin on it, we're really helping to connect people with their stories, with their legacy, perhaps poetry, helping people to connect with loved ones that maybe they have forgotten, just have an elevated experience at end of life. But as you know, working in hospice yourself, it's equally as important to work with the family.
Yes.
So we have, that's why this space exists to hold that space for the family. So I have these dreams of family members meandering the acreage and running into one another, and perhaps in tears, perhaps in joy, and through those relationships, they develop their own network of therapists. Right? They become the therapy to somebody else, hearing somebody else's lived experience and their story. So we have a laundry list of things to support people who are on the property, both guests and family members. But it's all with the intention of trying to bring us back to ourselves and to one another, and to connect ourselves deeper.
In the final couple minutes here, just to refresh people's memory here, you're a non-denominational program.
Yeah.
And again, you welcome anybody who is experiencing end of life.
Right.
And do you have a typical timeline, or like how long a person would be able to utilize your residence?
Well, yes. So we are private pay or donation. So our hope, similar to other places and spaces, is to have a pool of resources for those that can't afford to pay for their own room. But because we're private pay, that limits the length of time. Additionally, because we only have 3 beds, I'll be going through each application and identifying the person that's the most acute, and hopefully catering to the people that have about a month or less. Obviously, nobody knows,
Right.
but looking at the people that have nobody that a recent diagnosed person that has maybe 8 months wouldn't be an appropriate candidate. This is really for people at the acute phase where maybe their families can no longer care for them in the home. They don't want to go into a nursing home. They don't want to die in a hospital. They could be transferred to us.
Yep. All right. One last point. Ways to help. That's the far right tab on your web.
Yeah.
Page.
We need volunteers, and we as a nonprofit rely solely on donations at this point. So any opportunity, and nothing is too small, and we are gladly receiving donations at this point. Yeah.
All right, great. All right, we're at the end of the show. I want to thank Christin Ament, Executive Director and founder of the Bardo, and for being here to share how she's redefining end-of-life care in Minnesota. We hope you enjoyed today's show. Please contact us with any questions or comments you have regarding today's conversation. You can reach us anytime by voice or text at 612-999-3426. Join us again next Saturday at noon for another broadcast. And thank you for listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well, where we talk about your health and your life. Until next time, choose to live well.